Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining our session. We are going to talk about analyzing data from Amazon S3 in real time. We're excited about this feature we recently launched, and we're here to talk more and provide a demo about it. I'm Idris Motiwala. I'm the Principal Product Manager, managing the analytics products and services.
And I'm Till Westman. I'm managing the engineering team that builds the analytics service.
Thank you, Till. So before we get started, we want to provide a little bit of background about what Couchbase Analytics service is. And to build to that, we just want to share a little bit talk about a few modern analytics challenges. There is little doubt that enterprises of different shapes and sizes recognize the value of data as never before. They're taking strategic decisions to become more data-driven. Becoming more data-driven is easier said than done and involves not only the adoption of new technologies, but also new approaches to data management. So developers and customers face multiple modern and data analytics challenges when working with JSON data. One of them is with growing data volumes and variety, developers are faced with getting business insights in real time and getting real-time analytics on the underlying operational data. Traditional data warehouses require schema modifications when JSON data source changes. So examples like this result in users unable to quickly obtain insights into what's happening in their business. At the same time, they don't want to interfere with their operational systems workloads. So with more data, there's need for more computations and complex and ad hoc analytical requests with larger joins, aggregations, sets, and groupings. Developers would like to offload these data processing requests from underlying transaction data services to analytical data processing engines, which support parallel query processing with bulk data handling. And as underlying data is growing, as we said earlier, there's a need to manage these various data flows or data plumbing or data pipes from one system to another, which increases data pipes to manage the extract, load, and transform processing. Often today, this involves having to transform the data even before the analytical tools can process it. And of course, all of this will lead to increased costs, more systems and processes to maintain, and further adds complexity to their data platform and infrastructure. So why Couchbase Analytics? With these challenges in mind, Couchbase Analytics team has worked over the past 3+ years to simplify analytics-related complexities and streamline data platform architecture. We want you to spend some time focusing on your core applications and less time on your infrastructure. So the first thing is JSON analytics. Couchbase Analytics provides you the ability to analyze your natural JSON data in near real time without the need to doing extract, transform, or load. We use our Nickel querying language, the flavor for Nickel for Analytics, which derives from a SQL++. It's very SQL-like expressive language and allows you to develop insight-driven applications easily and quickly. Also, the time to insights. The analytics service supports what we call is the hybrid operational analytical processing we talked about earlier, and it supports real-time analytics integrated with the business operation. So processing current and historical data to prescribe actions in response to events and helps achieve your competitive advantage in the modern enterprise. With the hybrid analytical workloads, what we deliver is also a high performance, which means we use our massively and unique parallel processing query engine without impacting any operational application performance. And this allows users to create a user-defined shadow data set using database change protocol, which we'll talk about, and which is a fast memory-to-memory protocol between operational node and analytical nodes, which results into the workload isolation, which we talked about in the earlier challenges, to separate the analytical and the operational workload so you get the best performance and faster time to insight using your JSON analytics. And of course, all this leads to getting you and your business to derive insights in a much faster way, make decisions in a more agile way, and to grow your business in a much more impactful way as well. So let's take a step back and talk about what the traditional analytics solutions look like. You might have seen this earlier, or in your current existing architecture, where you have your business applications, then you have your data from your business applications flowing into your transactional systems or operational databases. And then to get to your analytical information, you typically would have an ETL or extract, transform, load, or ELT, which then batches into an analytical database, and where you cube your data, you create facts dimensions, etc. And then that data then batches and then you serve it to your analytical tool, and then that case also moves into your business application. So what happens in these kind of environments, as we talk in the challenges, it creates a wall between the time when you create your data, when it's created from business application till the time it goes to the analytics. There's an ETL wall, there's a time to transform it, and this takes away time, which results in lower time to get to your insights. So what we've done in Couchbase Analytics is to get you that instant insight from operational data. We talked about the hybrid analytical and operational processing, where your data, as it's coming in, it comes into our Couchbase database, and it goes into the operational data nodes, it stores the data, and when analytics service node is enabled, the data is replicated and make it immediately available right away in the analytics service. So you can start doing your querying on analytics right away. And that's what results in what we call is real-time analytics. So you can take the data and you're querying directly from there into real-time analytics into your analytics tool. You can even do it into and put it into your data warehouse. You can even do your data science or data mining capabilities, all of those from the analytics service as well. So now we're going to talk about why we're here in this session to learn about external data sets. This external data sets is a new feature which we launched a couple of months back, and we are very excited, and so are our customers. The use cases for external data sets are very simple. Our customers were asking, we wanted to query external data and analyze those data, which is not located in Couchbase, but specifically located in Amazon S3 environment, which is a data lake environment. And they wanted to tap into that information and also, enrich that Couchbase data, which is which you're getting from existing data sources with that external data set, which at the same time also wanted to bring in real-time insights. So it's not like, hey, I want this data today, but actually I'm getting yesterday's data. I want it in the current form with my current data on the operational data. Some of the other use cases our customers have been saying is they want to analyze historical data, which they store, they use Amazon S3 for, or they store any product data, which is to store for streaming data or reviews for their product, etc. And we're going to talk more, and Till is going to demonstrate in detail about these. So to walk through the architecture of this is, we talked about it's an application, typically set up, the data services are coming in, you have analytics service on, so you have the analytics data coming in, it typically would go into feeding into your analytical tools, or it's Power BI, Tableau, or it could be serving into your data warehouse, etc. So with S3, what happens is now we have tapped in the ability to get and read this data from Amazon S3 bucket, which is in the cloud, or it could be also be tapped into your on-prem version of your S3, which is supported by your appliance provider. We have a way to directly connect to that API as well and connect it. So what this brings is the ability to bring real-time, dynamically get that information into analytics service, and gives you in-time ability to combine the data to perform that capability within Couchbase Analytics. So some of the benefits of using Couchbase as external data set feature, number one is enabling data enrichment, which means the Couchbase resident data can now be enriched with additional information obtained from files that reside in the enterprise's existing S3-based data lake. Also dynamic data access, as I talked about it earlier. What that means is the latest data can be dynamically retrieved, streamed, and combined to perform the analysis from any S3 bucket in any AWS region during the analytics query execution, right? And due to the parallelized workloads, because it can be your S3 data can be configured and set across to your S3 data. The Couchbase is massively parallel performance architecture for optimized workloads. Users can configure and arrange access to S3 using analytics MPP architecture for faster response to queries and involving external data. So let's see all this in action, and Till can give you a demo on this.
Thank you, Iris. Okay, let's take a look at the demo here. So Before we do that, that's just a quick idea of how this is supposed to work. So, I mean, the way that you can access the data in S3 is basically the same way that you can access the data right now in Couchbase Analytics, which is we have the abstraction of what we call a data set, or that's kind of the equivalent of a table in a relational system. And here you see a simple query where basically you get your customers, your orders, you get some order items, and you get your S3 data. So all of those, basically, those are data sets which contain the data that we're querying. And so what you see here with those icons is that, you know, we have two of those, which are basically our Couchbase data. And then there's the third one at the bottom, which is S3 data. And so it just basically behaves like a data set. So what we will do is we will create a data set and then use it and just simply read the data from S3 as a data set. So in terms of what kind of data formats we can support right now, so we currently support, of course, JSON, because that is our native format. So, and if I want to now create such an external data set, I have a DDL for that. I have a DDL for that that creates an external data set based on an S3 bucket with a few parameters. We'll talk a little bit more about what the link is in a second. And of course, you can kind of limit what you're reading there with using the S3 path, and you also have some opportunity to filter out furthermore, but that's a little bit above what we need right now. And so on the right side, we see that there's also another option. It cannot only be JSON data, which is our native format, but we can also get external data in one of the common formats, CSV or TSV. And actually, there's a number of parameters, as you will see. But let's first look at the DDL here. So we'll be able to create an external data set. And if we have a CSV or TSV format, this is not self-describing as JSON is. So basically, if we want to use the fields and give the fields names, we need to kind of tell the system about it. And that's what we do in this create data set statement. We'll basically determine which are the fields that are available in this columnar data or in this tab separated data. And then the rest is the same. The rest is, again, we basically specify the S3 bucket. We specify where, how we connect to the S3 bucket using the S3 link. And then we can have a path, and we see a few of the parameters that I've just mentioned, because CSV and TSV can be parameterized in ways that are usually accepted in the industry. And so we're just going with the flow there. All right. So for this demo, we have a small business scenario. There is a company called XCOM, and it's Couchbase customer. And they're a worldwide e-commerce company, and they sell office furniture, stationery, and supplies. And in their data center, they have 3 Couchbase data nodes and 2 analytics nodes. And well, they want to do some analyses. So let's take a look. So what they would like to do is, one of the things they would like to do is to analyze data and do comparison with historical data. And because, you know, that kind of takes some time, and that also takes some space, and they want to optimize storage costs, they have some historical data on S3, on Amazon S3. And another thing that they also would like to do is they would like to use information that they have on the data lake. There's an S3 data lake, and the product reviews are stored there. That's basically from they have their social media. They basically take the product reviews, they bring them onto S3 for later analysis. And so that's where the data is right now. And that also is used by other parts of the company. Okay, and so in this picture, you will see that, okay, now we actually have this little S3 bucket there on the right, and that is kind of one part of what we're reading in the way with the data sets that I've just shown. All right, so what would I like to do? So there are 2 things that we want to look at. One of them is that XCOM would like to find out who are the top 10 revenue generators about our prolific reviewers. That's a simple query just to kind of to get us started. And then we'll have a little more interesting query, which wants to get the top 3 selling products from the S3 archives and the current orders. And they want to get spot historical trends and do that to support product promotions. All right, so let's move over to the demo. Before we do that, just a quick thing. We kind of have 3 steps here. The first one is to set up a link, which is the part that requires credentials and allows us to get that connection between the analytics service and S3. So that is one thing we're setting up front. And so on the right side, you see how you could do that. This is one way, is to use the REST API. And here we have a curl on the right, and we're basically creating a link here. The link is stored in a Dataverse, which is called default. Then the link has a name. That's my S3 link. It has a type. So that's basically, it's a link to some S3 bucket. So the type is S3. And then we have the access key ID and the secret access key, which are the credentials for AWS, and of course the region in which our S3 bucket is stored. And so the next step that comes after this will be creating a data set on the link and then running a query. And so those we'll actually see live in the demo. All right, let's move over. So here's my cluster. And so basically what I said is that we already have a link. And so this is basically the query that will show us all the links that we right now have in the system. And if I run this, we will see there are a few links here. And the one that we care about is this one. This is the S3 link. We have created this using the curl statement that you just saw before. And now we know that we have this link in the system and that we can create data sets on it. All right. So another thing maybe to note is on the right here, we already have a few data sets. All of those data sets are Couchbase data sets, so they are not on S3. So what we'll do now is we'll just create the first data set on S3. And to do that, I will copy and paste this so to make it quicker. So we'll create a new external data set, which is called S3 orders. That's the archive that we talked about before. That is on this bucket. So that's the name of the bucket. And then we have the S3 link that we just created. And we will basically only go into the bucket in this path, which is the e-commerce archives path. And it's a JSON format. So that's simple. And so we'll just create one of those data sets. All right. And now basically you'll see here on the right, we have created this data set, S3 orders. Those are the order archives. And that is available on S3 and has this cloud symbol here. All right, so with that, I think I can run my first simple query. Let me show you the query that I want to quickly show you. So this is the external data set for the product reviews. I just talked about it. So this is kind of the first step that we need to take. So this is the one that actually has an underlying CSV file. And so therefore we create this data set S3 product reviews, and we specify all of the fields that we have in here with their types so that basically our query processor can process this. Otherwise, the rest is all the same, but basically providing this type is something you need to do because the CSV file is not self-described. So I will create this one as well. And now basically I have two data sets on S3, the S3 errors and the S3 product reviews. And now I can run the query that I wanted to run before. So the first query is, as I said, so this is about having prolific reviewers, and I want to understand which of the prolific reviewers that provide reasonably good average ratings spend the most money on our platform. And so the way we do this, we have a user common table expression here, the with clause, and we're basically running a query which takes the S3 product reviews, groups them by user ID, sees which reviewers have at least 10 reviews, and then what we do is we take the number of those to get the average rating and order the results by the average rating and get 100 of those. And so based on this set of reviewers, then we want to find out which users make the most revenue, or basically spend the most money on this. And so this is another simple query. So basically we're taking the orders and we're taking the users and we're taking the prepared customers that we have above. Then we all join them on the user ID. And then we group by the username and just order by the total order, the total amounts descending. So that basically we have the top ones on top, and the total orders that we are using is this formula, which is just basically the sum of the grand total of each order. And so you see basically this data set looks just like every other data set. So it doesn't really matter from an abstraction perspective. That is very simple. I just exposed the S3 bucket. Oops. and as a data set, and I can execute it. And so now this talks to our S3 bucket. So that's why it takes a little more than a second. And here you have the result, right? It's very nice and simple, kind of what you expected to get. You get names and with their total orders, and Nicolette O'Keefe is winning. All right, so that was the first one. Now we also have something that's a little more interesting to kind of give you some idea of the power that you can get with Couchbase Analytics and a feature such as external data sets. So this is the next query that I quickly want to talk about, and I will spare you from each clause, just basically giving you a high-level idea of basically how this query is constructed and to see what you want to do with it. So what we wanted to do is we wanted to identify the top-selling products for each country to optimize inventory planning and the forecast. And so the first thing we do, basically, we kind of split this query up and want to do it in steps so that it's a little bit more understandable. The first thing we want to do is we want to get the top 3 selling products in the US. And basically, since there's only one data set for the US, that's all fine. So it's a very simple query. We limit by 3, so we get the top 3 products here. That's a simple group by query. Then we also need the rest of the world. And now you're wondering, why is the rest of the world and the US separated? And of course, there's some compliance rules here that we need to split, or we want to split our data across different geographical regions. So in this case, we have modeled this as the non-US accounts. So we need to do the same thing for the non-US accounts. In this case, of course, we don't just need the aggregation, we also need the grouping by the country. So then basically now we have 2 data sets that we've created so far, 2 common table expressions, one for US amounts, one for non-US amounts. And then what we'll do is we'll union those 2. And we'll just get the top 3 across US and non-US, and we get the top 3 here by using a window function, which is also available in Nickel. And so with that, we now basically can get the aggregated sales amounts from S3. So that is kind of where the S3 data set comes into the picture. And here we're basically using that to get the historical data and aggregate that. And after basically we have all of these pieces, we can put it all together by joining the products with the S3 amount and the country. And so what we'll get is which basically allows us to pretty up the output and get the right display names into the result. And if I run this query, which will take a little bit longer because actually there's quite a bit of stuff going on here. You will see a wonderful result. Here we go. So this basically now gives you what we're looking for, and you will see nicely. You get it. Basically, here we have a result for Afghanistan. Basically, we have the most demanded product together with the amount, the archive amount. So basically, to understand the change, and also we have the value of the increase here, and the same for the next one, and so on. So you can see that that's a reasonably powerful query that was nicely structured using this common table expressions, and that will show you kind of the power that you get with this query processor and the power of combining those queries with being able to access S3 here in a very simple way. So basically, we have talked a little bit about Couchbase Analytics. And so again, coming back to the key benefits of the solution is one of the really important parts is the workload isolation, that we have high performance and maintain workload isolation between operational and analytical workloads. And we have shown you why that's the case. I hope we have convinced you that really no ETL for NoSQL is a really good idea, because you work with your data on the operational analytics side in the same way. And so basically, both of them, both of the sides can work with the same data model, and you don't spend effort and time on doing the transformation and between the operational and analytical side. You always have current data. The continuous data sync is really powerful, because you get your operational data in your S3. You also got the current version of the data from S3. And so everything that you're doing is as of now, basically, as of the current time span. And I think we've also convinced you that it's really easy to manage. I mean, you've just seen, we took the bucket, the S3 bucket, we created a data set. It was just a normal query. There was nothing you had to do about it. It was a pretty simple setup. If it's JSON, it was close to trivial. If it's CSV, you needed to specify some information. but it was generally very easy to manage. And that is kind of one of the principles of the Couchbase data platform. It's also very easy to increase the cluster size and to scale out. And so this is a point of pride for us. All right. That is it. Thank you very much for attending. Also, please take a look at the other sessions, especially there is the Drive Innovation with Couchbase Analytics keynote that Idris and Mike Carey presented probably before this meeting, so before this session. So if you haven't been there, please check it out. It's really interesting. We also have another session on big data analysis with Nickel for Analytics, which will show you more. We showed a little bit about the window functions, but this will tell you what else is feasible right now. And then we have a nice session from Peter Reilly about Couchbase Analytics, one of our solution engineers, who will give you the real scoop. And 2 sessions from our partners. One is CData, who provides a driver to connect to Couchbase, or to connect Couchbase to visualization tools, for example, like Tableau. And of course, there's our partner Noe, who provides a visualization tool in the cloud and has been a long-time partner of Couchbase. Thank you very much.